how would you grade the Cowboys offense so far through 5 games this season?
Okay. So with help from the defense, because remember, this defense scored touchdowns too. The Cowboys have scored 40. They've scored 30. They've scored 16. They've scored 38. And they've scored 10. They have yet to not do double digits. However, they've had the defense helping them with some of those scores. They can't seem to put together stuff in the red zone. And this last game, I'm not going to let this one last game totally destroy what we saw them trying to implement. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Just because it would be different if they lose 42-10 to a team, not the Arizona Cardinals, but I'm talking about a team in the top 10. Everybody knows the 49ers are the best team in the NFL. And the NFL's best team proved that they are far superior than your team. So I'm just going to give them a C as opposed to an F or a D, like most people's, hot take would be Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, after that loss to the 49ers, because they earmarked the schedule and said, this is where we're going to prove who we are. We owe this team. You got smacked around real good. Well, you got smacked around by a team that really is still that good or maybe even better than those teams you lost in the playoffs. So I'm going to give them a C. Because I still think we haven't seen what they can do yet.
StrutRadio.com, text line 877-881-1053. How are you grading the Cowboys offense through the first 5 games of the season? I'm going to give it a C-, because all the talk this offseason was this Dak-friendly offense that Mike McCarthy's going to put together to cut down on the 15 interceptions that he had last year, and what that could mean to allow him to see the field a little bit better, to get the ball out quicker, to make better decisions, to alleviate those turnovers. What we haven't seen so far is the explosiveness that we have seen from the offense the last couple of years, and the inability to get Brandon Cooks involved, especially as a downfield threat. You've got receivers not running their routes with the kind of depth that will allow for spacing to create some mismatches. And more importantly, the offense looks a little uninspired in terms of its running game right now.
Well,
with Tony Pollard after what was a career year for him last year.
By the way, he got more touches than Zeke his first couple of games, and his production has been less than what it was a year ago at this time. Isn't that crazy? He got more touches than Zeke since Zeke was a rookie, and yet his productivity is less than what he did. I'm talking about Tony Pollard a year ago at this point. It's crazy. And by the way, the offensive line is actually run blocking better. So you can't even blame it on the line. The analytics show that the line has been doing fine on run block. Pass protection, another story. But run blocking, they're doing a fine job.
And, of course, last week was the first time that we had seen the preferred starting 5 of the offensive line for the Cowboys with Tyron Tyler, Zach Martin, and, of course, Terrence Steele. Well, I've had a little bit of practice doing that for a little while now. But at the same time, now as this offense looks to move forward, what are the things that we want to see from Mike McCarthy's Texas Coast offense? Much more explosion, being able to use the middle of the field, which they have not done through the course of the season so far. A lot of the stuff to the left, to the right, but not taking advantage of the center in the middle of the field against opposing defenses. There are a lot of things for this offense to improve upon that have to start against Los Angeles, who was 32nd in the NFL in terms of pass defense, that maybe you could start to see on Monday night.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy's only excuse is the first couple of games, he didn't have to show his hand. In other words, show all the things that he's capable of doing. We've been spoiled by Kellen Moore with all those tricks up his sleeve. Kellen Moore is a very creative offensive coordinator. Again, I said he had to go because in the playoffs, you have to be more disciplined, and you've got to do what works and also be aware of gassing your defense. In other words, running the clock, where Kellen Moore just likes to play with his toys. That's what he's doing in the regular season. This is what Mike McCarthy has to do. He has to open up the war chest. And I also think there's this theory that Mike McCarthy was overcorrecting for Dak's picks last year. Something that was an anomaly because Dak Prescott traditionally in his career doesn't throw a bunch of picks. So he's come up with this offense where Dak won't throw picks. And guess what has happened? Because his wide receivers, and Patrick Walker was on with Sean RJ, broke this down so well this morning. This second half of the game against the 49ers, here comes Dak Prescott forcing passes because in the first half, his guys weren't getting separation.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? It blew up in his face. He's throwing passes where the defense said, you know what? He's got to come back now. He's going to have to throw these passes now.
Yeah.
And they chewed him up.
And that's what's concerning to me on this offense so far before we turn to the defense is the lack of separation that these receivers are getting, not being able to win their one-on-one individual matchups. But my concern goes more to Mike McCarthy and his offense then. If you are not seeing that these receivers are getting the kind of separation that they need to win their individual matchups, it's incumbent upon the play caller to have some kind of creative play design to create mismatches and disadvantages for the defense to get these guys wide open, much like Sean McVay, much like Kyle Shanahan. Think of Mike McDaniel
bubble screens
and what you're doing.
Come on now.
You know, in
Pick
Miami,
plays.
The coach has got to be able to do some of those things. We're not seeing that right now for this offense.
Do you know who's only one getting separation? Patrick Walker was talking about. He ran the numbers. He looked up. The only one getting separation is Jake Ferguson. And they didn't throw him the damn ball. They threw it to him 3 times against San Francisco, and he was the only one out there getting separation. And they still didn't go to him. That's Mike McCarthy, not Dak.
Cowboys first quarter grades here on the Get Right. Let's switch our attention to the defense then. What grade are you giving the Dallas Cowboys defense through the first 5 games of this season?
Okay. This defense, early on, pitched shutout against the Giants. Against the Jets, even though they didn't have Aaron Rodgers, only gave them up 10 points. Against the Patriots, it was Belichick's worst defeat up until the next game. You know what I'm saying? So if the Belichick Patriots hadn't lost, was it 34-0 last week
to the Saints? Yeah,
I would have thought, well, the Cowboys defense is. Oh, the Saints did it too. So in my mind, these Cowboys, and I'm not blaming Dan Quinn. I'm blaming the Cowboys players on defense. And I like all of them personally. And I know they got talent. I'm not dismissing their talent. I'm like, what the hell? What are y'all doing? Especially in run defense. I mean, what are y'all doing? Because I'm only going to give them a C+. Because I don't know which one which ones we're going to see game to game now. Outside of a team named New. Just like you said. They're not new. What we're going to see.
Yeah, right now I'm going to give them a straight C. You mentioned the first 2 games of the season outscored their opponents 70-10.
Yes.
This defense was looking terrific. And now, of course, we have seen Daniel Jones, Zach Wilson, what that looks like. And then, of course, you go on the road and you get absolutely dominated on the ground by an Arizona Cardinal team that you had no business losing to in the manner that you did.
And they, to a man, were saying, I was in the start of the night, that's on us. That's on us. Well, then how the hell you let this 49er game happen then?
And then, of course, what happened against San Francisco, you give up over 220 on the ground to the Arizona Cardinals. You give up over 107 yards on the ground to San Francisco. You allow Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan in that offense to carve you up, especially in the middle of the field where we know that Kyle Shanahan's offense is devastating with those crossers and those slants to be able to get those guys wide open. They crushed the Cowboys in the area once again.
They turned Brock Purdy into Tom Brady. Seriously. Tom Brady was a low draft pick, was a 5th-round pick. Come on now. They turned Brock Purdy, and you called Brock Purdy the best description because he's not some arm talent guy. He's a point guard.
Yeah.
He's very cerebral, and he knows how to find the guy. He knows Kyle Shanahan's offense backwards. And because he knows it backwards, he's got the key. He got the key to the car. He can drive it anywhere he wants to go.
Yeah, and you saw that on full display on Sunday Night Football. But
that's why all the Cowboy defenders had tire tracks on their jerseys.
Well, and one of the more concerning elements now for me on this defense is your safety play.
Yes.
Between Jaron Kearse, Donovan Wilson, and Malik Hooker, who has not been great so far this year, and how they allow receivers to run wide open. Even Marquise Bell losing George Kittle in the secondary back there to allow him to score that first touchdown.
And show off that T-shirt.
And it was off to the races for San Francisco. So not only do you have the concern in the back end with your 3 safeties, your linebacker room is thin right now. Leighton Vander Esch officially being put on injured reserve. He's going to miss the next 4 to 6 weeks, of course, with that neck injury. Does that mean we see more Micah Parsons as an off-ball linebacker, where we saw a few plays and reps during the San Francisco game where he can obviously get downhill and make plays, but it's incumbent upon this defensive line Mozzie Smith, Jonathan Hankins,
Tank Lawrence,
Neville Gallimore.
Oh, you mean in the middle, yeah.
Osa Digizua, to be able to have the gap integrity
That's
and
right.
discipline to not allow themselves to have these open running lanes for
real.
running backs that we've seen against Arizona and most recently against San Francisco.
And you know what the running game is to solve Micah Parsons? You run at him and then get him tired, and then he's useless. That's what the offensive coordinators have been doing. It's like, you know what, you want to solve Micah Parsons? Run at him.
Yeah. This is going to be a game for the Cowboys against the Los Angeles Chargers where they've got plenty of weapons and then getting one in return with Austin Eckler coming back, who has been dealing with injury as he's going to be ready to play going into Monday night, it appears, for Justin Herbert.
Oh, there's Taylor Swift. What happened?
Travis Kelce caught a pass.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been doing a stinging night. Travis Kelce, if nothing else, Kelsey's been balling for the Kansas City Chiefs so far.
She's going to write a song about it.
On Thursday Night Football. So I'm going to give the Cowboys defense a straight C on defense right now after what has been, unfortunately, an up and down start to them this year.
682 says our defense is a turnstile defense. Call it valet service.
Ole! That's what it feels like at times with ball carriers, running in between the tackles, receivers being able to get open. As I mentioned, George Kittle in the dominant performance that he had, 3 touchdowns, career high for him, in the game against the Cowboys on Sunday.
I don't know who they are.
You know who only gets an A for the Cowboys so far this year?
Who?
How about special teams with Brandon Aubrey?
I was going to tell you that's the MVP. Brandon Aubrey is
MVP.
MVP.
That was your MVP?
That was my MVP. Because think about it.
He's perfect.
He's perfect. There's except for that missed extra point the first game of the season. Was it mixed extra point or was it field goal?
No, he's perfect on field goals, 14 for 14.
Yeah, you can't complain about this man.
And that was one of the biggest questions that we had, coming into the season. What would the kicker, be able to do from a consistency standpoint?
Yeah, he was the X factor all off season. We knew all the moves. We were so impressed with what they did. Can't blame the front office for not bringing in the talent. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, what's Bones Foster going to do for the kicker? We didn't know what we had. And guess what? He's your MVP.
So far, it's been great.
That's an indictment on the rest of the team. and this is not
That's
even
the only
knocking
positive grade I can hand out right now.
Yeah, I mean, you can't knock him. It's not his fault.
Shout out to Brandon Aubrey.
Shout out to him. Seriously, we're not kidding. He's been good. He's been nails.
Maybe
he act like he got a Raven uniform on.
Wow. Is that we're doing the Justin Tucker thing? Is that what we're doing?
I love some Justin Tucker.
Wow.
Even though he went to UT.
Mm-hmm. Those are some.
He can play the piano too.
First quarter grades for the Cowboys, and yes, 254. Of course, the Cowboys did sign Rashaan Evans to be a part of the linebacker room to try and create some depth there without Leighton Vander Esch being gone for at least the next month for the Dallas Cowboys.
You knew that was going to happen, though. It's always a neck injury. I don't wish injury on him, but why is it? It's shoulder, neck, stingers.
Yeah, I hope he's going to be okay.
I do too.
It's not something that
I like him.
Is career threatening or anything, and hopefully he comes back ready to play because I thought he's played pretty well so far at times for the Cowboys this season.